Right, Sun Tzu says, if you give some information out and people don't understand it or do something wrong, it's your own fault. You should retell it in a better way. But if you tell it multiple times and they still don't understand, it's their fault. So recently I put a video up, product placement by the way for purpose. I put a video up called The God Eye of History, or God Eye of History. And I'm trying to get across a new idea. And I'm going to explain it all in here. But apparently some people took it a bit wrong. And the people who took this wrong were actually the qualified people, were the educated people. But it's probably my fault. Let's do a bit more of explanation. So the point of my God Eye theory is I want to put something new into history, or whether it's already been there, it's not in the average person's vocabulary. I want to put in something called the God Eye. And it basically means if you were God and you could see through history, time, dimensions, through all of like history, you could go to a certain time in history and look at it and say, that's exactly what happened, okay? If you were God. Now, no historian, no human can do that. We don't have time machines. We don't have the God Eye. But the reason I'm talking about this principle is to get rid of a secondary effect, which is people start to say, well, you've got your truth and I've got my truth and we've both got truths. And no longer do they say one is right and one is wrong. They say, well, maybe we're both right. No, it's impossible. So I put up, so you can't change history. So I put up a picture of a man drinking Coke. And I said, this man is drinking Coke. And then the historians among you said, well, no, maybe the Coke was replaced with water, or maybe it was photoshopped. And you could say maybe he's not actually drinking Diet Coke. Something else has gone on. But that is sort of missed the point of the video. The point of the video is that if you had the eyes of God, the God Eye, you could say, that is Coke. He is drinking it. He has opened the bottle. It is May the 4th, Star Wars Day. And it is 2022 or whatever. So it's actually August the 15th, I think, 2022. And you can be like, if you were God, you would cut through any lie. You couldn't replace the insides. It's actually a Photoshop. It's CGI. God would say, I can see it. I can see with my eyes through into the molecular structure. It is Coke. There is no lie. That is what happens. So, for example, I bought this from the shop. It is a Coke bottle. It has not been messed with. It's direct. If I got 1,000 scientists lined up to analyse this liquid, they would say that's Diet Coke. If I took it back to the Diet Coke factory, they say it's Diet Coke. And you will now say, oh, but what if you're lying, Anthony? But the point here is it's God Eye. So this is Coke. It is sealed. I am opening it. It is August the 15th, 2022, and it is 5 p.m. So I'm going to drink. At this time, I've had a drink of Diet Coke. I've replaced the bottle with my right hand, lid with my right hand. I've placed it down in my left. Something has happened. That can never be changed. I cannot go back in time and change it. I cannot manipulate it. Your truth about what you saw doesn't change it. Nothing changes it. No matter what you argue in this world, nothing changes that fact. And I've picked up this bottle. I'm going to put it back down. A secondary thing you can't change. Okay, it cannot be changed. So what I'm saying is, in history, we are living history, okay? As we move along, we're living history. For some reason, people seem to be under this impression that in the past things are manipulated or they're malleable and you can change. You can't change the past. Time exists as it is. Once you start talking about breaking down time and time is not real and you're in the world of philosophy and you're in the world of you're outside of reality, then we do have philosophy. Do we exist? As far as history is concerned, we do not stray into philosophical thoughts like that. We exist on this planet. We are talking now. We are solid living creatures. This is a Diet Coke. It's real. It's on the desk. That's all you need to know. If you start going down the other path of what's real, what's not real, you'll never get anywhere in history, because you've got to all agree we are humans living on the planet. Something happens and time moves forward. Even if you go down to breaking down the arrow of time, is time real, all that, forget all that. That never helps you when you're trying to answer a question about history. So our question about history is, say, what happened at the Battle of Sekigahara? If I had God Eye, so October, I think the 1st, but October 1600, you go to the Battle of Sekigahara and you say, where was Tokugawa Ieyasu stood? What armour was he wearing? Did he use his left hand to hold his reins, his right hand? Did he have hold of his reins? Was he off the horse, on the horse? What time did he on the field? Did he move back? Did he move forward? Did he get excited? Did he smile? Did he laugh? What did he say to the gent on his right or his left? All of those questions are, valid questions for a historian. And Tokugawa Ieyasu from the Japanese samurai, because this channel's about Japanese samurai, but it could be anyone from anywhere, did do something on that day. He was there, he said some things, he did some things, he wore some things, he might have had toothache, he might have had a sore back, you don't know. But if you have the eyes of God, you can see through that to exactly what happened. Now, the rest of you are educated and done courses that you then say, oh, but the Coke might not be real Coke, it might be an illusion, it might be, it's just brown water, but probably Coke is. It's actually been manipulated. Maybe I'm lying, I understand all that. That is basic history. But what I am saying is not to do with how we get to the truth. What I'm saying is we have to stop people manipulating the fact there's a truth. See, history has changed. If you're not aware, the world is changing very fast. It's getting very woke, political. And this is not a new thing in history. History was one of the forefronts of being like, let's be honest, third world countries are brutal. I have lived in Africa. I was there for a month and a half with a tribe. It is a brutal place. I've been to brutal places. There's some horrible places. And if you go back in time, you tend to go to quite brutal times. Not all of them. Some are wonderful. But let's say medieval England, medieval Japan is not the nicest place on the planet. You would have probably struggled. It would be a harsh reality. The social restrictions are there, etc., etc. But what we find in today's history is people start to say, well, people were nice and wonderful. They don't say anything negative. So what tends to happen is we've got to a place now where the best way I can describe this is through running races. When you get a running race, in the old days, from about 1980 beforehand, back to ancient Greece, it was like you got 10 people on the start line, 10 people set off. The person at the front was the winner. Second place, silver, bronze. Last place, loser. Remember sports days as a kid? Loser. All right, chunk, come on, get a salad, you lost. Even the teachers were like that. Stop, well done the winner, come on loser, get yourself sorted. And there was winners and losers in life, but the loser was not always the loser. You then have a maths competition, and the person who was maybe first at the running was last at the maths, But the point was, is you had people who were good and people who were bad. You had correct, you had wrong. Now, in history, there's a trend towards not offending anyone. There's no captain anymore of a team. You're a team and you all do it together. No, there is correct history and incorrect history. Now, if 1,000 people do the correct, come to the same conclusion and the variations are very small, you can pretty much say that was what happened in history. But a new piece of information can change that. So we do not have God eye. We don't have it. So please separate the concept of God eye with us trying to find out what happened. God would say, I've just witnessed Antony drinking a Coke on that day. You cannot go back in time. You couldn't then argue Antony didn't and be right. Antony, you may argue I didn't, and you may say, oh no, I think he drunk a full fat Coke, or he drunk Lilt, or he drunk Sprite, or he drunk a coffee, or he drunk water, and all of the idea of the Coke was an illusion. This was put on by another faction have superimposed, the idea of Coke onto it, and somebody said he drunk Tango, and it was like, it's cloudy, messy. So we do not have the eyes of God. We've got nothing. And all we have is darkness that we move and murk our way through as historians. And we're like, pulling it all to the side. And eventually we get to the correct picture. And sometimes, even if 1 million people believe it, they only believe it because one person was popular enough to tell them. And then what you find is that they weren't true, and then somebody finds a new piece of information. Let's take ninja martial arts. Everybody, myself included, believed that ninja had hand-to-hand fighting special abilities that was only theirs in the world. Now, after 12 years, 15 years of doing this, you all now believe me, and it's like, no, they didn't. The amount of people it's 99%, no, they didn't. And we've changed it through one person. And one person can change that. So just because a lot of people believe it doesn't mean it's true. But in normal, regular history, if most people believe it, it tends to be quite true. But my point being is, we do not have the eyes of God. We cannot see exactly what happened, but neither can we change what happened. Something specific absolutely happened. It isn't a case of you get a time machine and one man goes, Tokugawa Ieyasu held his sword in his right hand. Tokugawa Ieyasu held in his left hand. One of them is wrong, one of them is right. You can't say in one dimension, Tokugawa had it in his left, in another dimension, he had it in his right. You're going into cuckoo land, and you're saying, if you don't believe there's a very single thing that happened in a very specific time, at that time, you are, I'm afraid, mentally unstable, or you need to go to a hospital, because, or you need to go and do a degree in philosophy with the crazy grey people. Do you know what I mean? Let's not do that silly stuff. So if you ever been to a philosophy class, it is ridiculous. It is absolute nonsense, I'm afraid. It's not proper science. It's just like, let's just chat shit, boys, and have a bite to eat and get some drinks, and we'll say it's philosophy. Don't get me wrong, there are some cool philosophers out there, but a lot of it, philosophy students tend to be, you end up arguing, and what's the end result? Everyone's happy, man. Everyone's fine. I feel that, oh God, just what bloody well happened. So let's get back there. So let me give you, for the ninja people, because I ran this video up now, let me give you an example. So, Katori Shintoryu, he has some small ninjutsu in there, and he presents his ninjutsu in a specific way. I'll put the pictures at the side. Then you get Hatsumi, who has his version of what ninja was, and he presents his ninjutsu. I'll put the picture here. Krista Jacobson, as her view of what ninjutsu is. This is the way she does it. You then get Kawakami. This is his version of how ninjas were. Then you get Stephen Hayes, his version of ninjas. Then you get my lot, Natoryu, our version of what ninjas are. And they're not all the same. They're quite different, actually. So it starts to be a case of, well, which one is correct? And which one should you believe? And you should believe the person who's done the most research, come up with the most plausible answers, and put together the most reasonable idea of what actually happened. But that's down to you to pick out of those people to believe what it is. So, if I'm going to leave you now, all I've got to say is, some people were misunderstood by what I said before. I'm trying to introduce the God Eye, meaning there is no debate. Something happened. X happened on X day at X time. But nobody on this planet has the ability to see it. Yep. So we have to rely on the non-God eye, the eye of history, to try it. And that's when all the people who answered me with it's this, that's all correct. You're not incorrect, you are correct. But I'm talking about the God eye, which means that it stops people saying, well, my truth is different and my version of ninjutsu is spiritual to me and everything. No, back in your box. It's just, it either is or it isn't. There's no messing about. So, there you go. Right, guys, if you're interested in what I do, basically, follow me and get yourself a copy of the Book of Bushido. Help me out. That would be splendid. I'm going to enjoy this Coke now.